This is Tanbridge House School in Horsham. The maths department here has embarked on a project to improve their teaching and to make maths more stimulating for their pupils by making better use of ICT. They're being helped by Alison Clark-Jevons of the Mathematics Centre at University College, Chichester. Leading the project is the school's head of maths, Geraldine Garley, and assistant head teacher, Ralph Butcher. Why did the school decide they needed to make changes?
We wanted to actually promote the use of ICT to promote direct interactive teaching and actually impact on the children's learning and the way in which the teachers were able to teach. So that's where we were coming from when we made those kind of decisions. So we looked at bringing in some recent up-to-date kit that would facilitate that, and we backed it up through a series of training.
Well, as being a new head of department, I was already stirring up quite a lot of things. So on this, I went out and consulted. And I did that with the University College Chichester, and Alison joined me in the department with my problem. And that was we needed to get teachers to have the confidence to use computers for their teaching, because they were nervous about using a keyboard. And we had to get over that hurdle before we even started looking at any software. Alison came in, and how did you find us, Alison?
I found a very normal maths department, to be honest, of which there'll be many similar ones up and down the country. Essentially, Geraldine's talked about that notion of personal fear in terms of taking on new ideas, particularly with technology for some people. And then the added factor of going live in front of a class of real pupils for whom often the focus is on classroom control and the teachers not feeling, they can feel confident about the mathematics, but the technology was going to open up some different things that they would have to deal with. So I think one of the initial points is to almost give teachers permission to become learners again and to accept that there may well be some aspects of mathematics that will be new or will be revisited, and that where you can do that alongside the pupils, it gives you a much safer starting point in terms of taking that technology into the classroom.
But in addition to that, we're also aware that we weren't monopolising ICT in the way that we wanted to. We wanted to actually use it to help teaching and learning as part and parcel of the mathematics that the children were engaged in an interactive way, rather than, for example, just working through here's how you do a spreadsheet or a particular exercise or a programmed learning package. So we wanted to use it in a more interactive and open-ended way. We were supported by the LEA, and so we had consultants coming in working with individual teachers. We also sent teachers who were working with ICT out on courses in pairs, so they were able to work together and discuss what they were doing when they actually came back into school.
So what was the first thing their consultant did with the staff?
We had to play. We had to have an empty classroom, and as a group of colleagues together, open up software for the first time, use a whiteboard for the first time, deal with things when they went wrong. But I think very importantly, it was always around a rich mathematical question. So it wasn't just a case of learning a piece of software. We often started with a maths problem that we had to get to grips with how we might attack that problem using the software.
And how was all this received by staff?
Well, we suddenly all realised we're all in the same boat. There's none of us experts at this, using this software. So that was a levelling ground for us. Then Alison provided twilight sessions, which we went along to. And yes, it was playing with the software, but every session we left with a lesson we could deliver. We went in thinking, these are the learning objectives which we'd like to meet. And after having spent an hour or so in the session, we could walk away confidently with, well, I've discovered a much better way now to deliver that objective. And I think that was one of the things that was really key to it, was whenever we did any training, we left the training room, the session, with something that we could deliver to pupils confidently.
Daniel, can you come up and that n can be any number along that line, can't it?
Which is what they did, bravely using the software with their pupils as soon as possible after they'd learned how to use it themselves to gain confidence.
Thank you very much. And what would you hazard a guess at there for?
10.7.
10.7? Let's see what it actually is. 10.7. Okay, so the main idea I want to get is that this number can be anything along that number line, or it can even go off.
There's always an element of risk when you actually take on something new and when you actually look to develop in certain ways. So, of course, there was a certain amount of uncertainty with people who hadn't used ICT in this way before. The LEA that supported us and the consultants that came in and worked with individual teachers were very good at actually bringing the ICT to the staff and making it accessible to them and getting them to just take risks in small steps so that gradually they became familiar with the software.
Multiplied by n. It's the first time I've used it. The first time I actually met the package was last Friday. So I only had the weekend really to think about it, and the computers weren't working with it on Friday afternoon, so it was only this morning that we've really had time to look at it.
So how do you think it's gone down?
I think it'd be quite useful, especially when I get more conversant with it, and especially the questioning part of it, because yeah, the package is quite easy to use and the children can find out how to use it quite easily themselves.
I mean, it's the mixture of people in the department, some very experienced teachers with incredibly good pedagogical skills, and they would be working alongside with someone who had better keyboard skills and asking all the questions, well, how would you do this and how could you do that? So in actual fact, their skills complemented each other.
I think the main thing is that you need to get rid of the ones that you're not looking at the moment.
I was going to say it's obviously aimed at more able students because there's too much to look at for less able students.
Yeah.
There's too much on there, so you need to get rid of, yes.
And when they worked together, by pairing teachers together like that, they came away with very rich activities. The one which had really worked on the teaching and learning, the other teacher had the skills, and then in that session they transferred those.
And what do the students think of this new approach?
The students love the technology. They enjoy participating and coming up and using the board and the software and the hardware.
Okay, Simon, can I ask you to show us?
More importantly for them,
Right, so
it will
we've
allow them to really engage in a more meaningful level in the subjects that they're actually studying.
Go says triangle.
We're hoping that it's actually going to impact in the learning, the real learning of mathematics.
What I need you to do is stand right.
We're already sensing that the students are enjoying, sensing that the teachers themselves are developing their teaching skills as a result of their use of this technology and their plans that they have. We're also sensing that the teachers are engaged in that learning process because of the expectations they're bringing to bear of their students. The students themselves are showing signs that they're enjoying that.
It's slightly different because normally we work out of exercise books and we normally work in our orange books, which we've got all our work in.
Yeah. Because the interactive whiteboards have only just been reinstalled, it helps that we can see the calculator display on the big whiteboard. So we can see what she does and easily replicate it, whereas if she's just talking about it, it's more difficult.
It's just more about exploring, I think, whereas normally we just taught the facts, I think. So, yeah, it's more about investigating.
Yeah, I feel it's much more relaxed because this guy is just letting us do investigate on our own. She's not like lecturing us about it or anything, so I think it's better.
I think we're in the stage of where pupils are seeing the change in the teaching styles and the use of technology. Pupils have always measured themselves by their end-of-year exam results or their Key Stage 3 GCSE grade, and that's not what this is about. This is about really engaging in mathematics, enjoying it, higher level of motivation in the classroom. And once we have all those sorted out, you're going to obviously get better results.
So what stage in the project is the school at now?
You have seen us at the beginning of accepting the fact that we want to move in this way. And what you've seen today is teachers really engaging with using the interactive whiteboards and the software and the hardware associated with it.
If we get it down to 1.5, N is 1.5, B is 3.
We would have been here a few months ago had we not have been burgled when we had them installed for the first time. So that's kind of set us back a little bit. But we're hoping that really we're on that road now. We've made that commitment, and we're looking to build upon what we've done.
I think the department is well poised now to be able to take a lot of the ideas forward. They need time to continue to get to grips with some of the new software and resources that they're tapping into. But I think one of the things that has happened is that the dialogue is now there. There's a real sense of a professional dialogue in the department, whereby that they're really in a position to maximise the way in which they're using technology. They're working together with some common aims and some common purposes. And that's really key to this department continuing to develop, that they've had those opportunities and that professional dialogue is very much becoming part of the way in which they're working. Another factor that we have to acknowledge is that if senior managers are going to expect their teachers to take risks with new technologies in the classroom, they have to give the teachers that permission and underwrite that risk taking, because otherwise, if we've got a heavily the agenda currently is very heavily focused towards targets and key pupils and target pupils, that sometimes things aren't going to go right first time, and it's important that teachers feel that they are able to take those risks, and that ultimately the school is seeing that as something that is valuable.
So when will you know when the school has got there?
We're hoping that this technology will build. I think it's important to accept that we're never actually going to get to the end of it. We're always going to be looking to take on something new and do something more with it. But I'm hoping that by this time next year we'll be seeing ICT in this way used as a matter of course, rather than this is something I want to do with this particular area of maths.
When you put technology into a normal mathematics classroom, the most significant impact is actually upon the role of the teacher themselves. Some of the things that they would usually do move to the background, and what the technology allows them to do is really get a window into what the pupils see within the context that they're working. This means that the teacher becomes much more able to react and respond to misconceptions and ideas that are developing as the pupil's understanding develops.
Let's move it around and see where it goes and what you think will happen. Take it from the bubble.
That for some teachers is new. That really does come about because of the technology, and once teachers begin to see how that's useful to them, they then develop the way that technology is working for them.